There we go. Hey, Facebook. Good evening. Excuse me. Hello, hello, hello. Dr. S and Anissa, Dr. A hanging out. So join us. All right, so we're just setting up, getting started. I'm closing out some tabs. Always have like a billion tabs open. Um, so yeah, welcome to Word of Mouth with Dr. S. So I'm gonna give it a few moments, give people opportunity to pop on, join us, to share, um, all of those good things. We are continuing our discussion on scripted love. So we've gotten really, really good feedback on our earlier two, excuse me, our earlier two. And so we just want to keep the party going. All right. All right. So I'm sure people will join in. Let me share. I'm gonna share to the Lioness Pride group. Join us. I feel like we have a lot of like late night people. Like when I popped on
Mhm.
yesterday, it was late to me, but like people was up.
Oh yeah, when you was building your thing.
Yes. Um, so yeah, so we'll go ahead and get started. So Dr. S here dropping nuggets you didn't know you needed. And as always, it is my hope and prayer that they will help you be your best you. I'm gonna let Dr. A introduce herself. I'm gonna do a couple of little announcements and then we're gonna get into the conversation and be sure as you are jumping on, share, tag somebody, be sure to comment because we really want this to be interactive. So go ahead, Dr. A.
Mhm. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. A. I am excited to have this discussion time with the movie Just Right. So, before we jump into it, I think Dr. S has some announcements, and we're going to get into it.
Yes, and I'm definitely continuing to close out some tabs. I know recently, I don't know if other people have been having problems with their internet, but like at the most random times, it'll be like I'll lose service or whatever. So if it's
Mhm.
kind of glitchy, I apologize in advance um, for that. So let me share my announcement. So I have two that I can think of. Make sure three, four. I'm like, what I got going on? All right, so I want to mention I extended the deadline for House of Esther Reteach Retreat. Originally, the deadline for your registration was the 15th of November, but I extended that to the 23rd because I get it, it's holiday time and different things are coming up, but I don't want anyone to miss out on the opportunity to come in and learn, relearn, connect, have a space to be real and raw and have those honest and transparent conversations. And so we do have a king bed left. If you would like to use that as a single occupancy, it's $150 deposit. But if you and your homegirl want to come, you have like somebody you know, like, no, I want to room with her, and we trying to be mindful of budgets. If y'all want to share the king bed, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. We also have two queen beds, excuse me, two queen beds available, and the deposits for those are $100 each. So, want to give you all an opportunity to join us for that. If you have questions about that, hit me up. We can talk about it. So that's one thing. Also, on December 7th, our Lioness group has a Lioness roaming activity where we are meeting up at a Goodwill. Y'all know I love a good thrift. I I love a good deal, and people are always like, "How do you figure? How do you do?" I don't know. I'm giving you another opportunity. We did one in January, and the person who came racked up with all other stuff. So we're gonna be meeting at the Goodwill in, is that North County? You know, I don't be knowing all the different whatevers. So off Lindbergh. So join us for that on December 7th from 2 to 4. Also, we are doing another lioness activity for our single ladies. But if you're married and you just so happen to be free on February 14th, you're welcome to join us. We'll be going to um game show battle rooms in Chesterfield. And so that's $42 for those tickets. And you can register for House of Esther as well as for the Galentine's Night get together at drshalay.com/events-1. And my last announcement is go ahead and save the date for April 5th for the 5th annual Roar Like a Lioness Women's Conference, which I'm super duper. I'm like, I can't believe it's gonna be the 5th one. Amazing. So yes. So announcements out of the way. I'm turning over to Dr. A. Look at me rhyming.
So we are continuing our series on scripted love. This is the third movie. I feel like it's our third one. Okay. So the point of scripted love is we always have these talks about relationships, Dr. S and I, and look, the nerd in me, my hypothesis was that that some of us who had not had positive or even any example of what healthy black love was could have possibly taken cues from these, black rom-coms that were very popular in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And so we have done why did I forget the last two? We have done Love Jones, Two Can Play That Game, and by request, we decided to do Just Right. So, at a preliminary talks, this was not a favorite of Dr. S. After watching it, it's still not a favorite.
Let me just say real quick. And hey, Casey, and hey, everyone who is popping on. Say hey in the comments, share, tag, all of the good things. The reason why I was not a fan of this movie is less about the premise and more about the actor choices for
Mhm.
the characters. So I just wanted to put that out there. Okay, go ahead, Dr.
And we're gonna get into dig into the characters, and I'm very interested in hearing. I think it will make for good conversation about those actor choices. So main characters, we have Scott, because I don't never remember nobody's name. Scott played by Common, Leslie played by Queen Latifah, Morgan played by Paula Patton, Foxy Brown played her mama. What's her name? Pam Grier. That's her real name. Okay, Pam Grier played Leslie's mama. I don't know the man's real name, but he played on Grey's Anatomy. He was the head of surgery for a long time. I don't remember Richard something. I feel like that's his name. And I think that's everybody and there's some, cameos from other people, Scott's team and some people that Leslie worked with. But so the premise of this movie is the man Scott like someone was about to get married to Morgan, and we can go into details as we break down the character.
Time
But
out. Scott is an NBA player,
okay,
so that makes a difference because
okay.
the person he was gonna marry wanted to marry
Hmm.
him because he was an
Hmm.
NBA. Okay, go ahead.
And we were gonna get to that when we got
Oh,
to the characters.
we talking about the premise of the movie. That's relevant.
Right, and when we break down the characters, we can talk about their jobs and all of that. Like but the main premise is a guy who really has his eyes for someone else. She break up with him, and we'll say why. And then he gets close to another female, and he realizes is that female that he's become friends with, that he initially looked at her, initially put her in the friend zone, became friends with. They get close because she helps him, and since he's an NBA player, he injures himself. She rehabilitates him basically, and then it's one of those types you were under my nose the whole time. The person I really love, you were in my face, under my nose the whole time. But I friend zoned you. Um, Morgan came back and Scott, the NBA player, pushes Leslie to the side because he felt like he owed Morgan another chance. And then, of course, it ends in the typical, rom-com way where Scott professes his love to Leslie in some big grandiose way. So, Scott, NBA player, popular player at the time. Morgan, they did a really good job. Now, the actor choices may have been bad, but the way they developed the actors, I think, showed really good, like, dynamics in a lot of people's relationships. So Morgan is the example, because this happens in real life. Examples of women who spend outrageous amounts of money to like make they put in the best weaves or get their hair the best, they have the best makeup, they have the best clothes, just to show up at All-Star Weekend hoping to get a basketball player. And Morgan, she had vision board, like she had no real job. Her job was to basically figure out what she needed to do to get noticed. And her main goal was to really bag somebody rich, but in this case, it was basketball, a sports person. Leslie, they presented her as, the down to earth girl, the girl who didn't take herself too seriously. She drove this really, really old beat up car. She didn't want to get a new one. She got a fixer upper that Morgan was staying with her. That's a dynamic to note. They grew up together. They were like god sisters. The reason I say she didn't take herself too seriously, and feel free to interject about a particular character at any time, but the reason I say she didn't take herself too seriously, when they were going to a basketball game, Morgan dresses up in this nice, like, cocktail dress, and Leslie wears a jersey, what one wears to a game. um, and both Morgan and Leslie's mom were like encouraging her to wear a dress, and she's like, it's a basketball game. Um, um, Leslie is looking for love. I completely skipped over. She went on this blind date. She dressed herself up. She looked really nice. The date seemed to be going well, but I don't even remember the character's name at the blind date. But it seems like they're vibing, and then at the end of the day, he's like, well, I just got out of a serious relationship, so code for I don't want to get into a serious relationship, or I don't want to get into a serious relationship with you, but we got to go by what people say. We can't assume. So I'm not ready for a relationship. um, so Leslie is kind of getting disenfranchised with the dating scene. So some kind of way she gets invited. I don't forgot how, but she gets invited to
They meet
Scott's
him
home.
at the gas station.
Okay, so they met. So after the game, I forgot how they kind of connected, but they're making conversation. Leslie's making some connections. He finds out that he's a jazz lover and some other things. He's actually really down to earth. That's compatible with her. He invites her and Morgan to his home for a party. Um,
Invites he invites Leslie because he doesn't know that
no,
Morgan.
but that's what I thought. So okay, so Leslie and she brings Morgan. Um, so Morgan runs into him at the bar. Not Morgan, excuse me. Leslie runs into him at the bar. Morgan scopes him out as well. So Morgan kind of like, as we say, cock blocks and decides that she likes Scott. So she starts to play kind of a little two can play that game. She makes herself unaccessible. She like makes up some story that she volunteers at the homeless center and then doesn't give her his number, and which causes Scott to come looking for her. And I don't remember that gets iffy, but I do know they begin dating and then they eventually get engaged. So we can stop there and have some dialogue. So characters, thoughts, Dr. S. so far.
Well, you let me know because I feel like I jumped in earlier and you shut me down. So what did you want me to
No,
say?
I'm saying now, let's go.
Well, the reason why I felt like that was information that was important early is because this dynamic would not have happened if Scott had
Mhm.
been a ball player. Because
Mhm.
Morgan only wanted a baller, not necessarily a ball player, but like you said, a
Mhm.
baller. Because this is a
Mhm.
conversation that Leslie and Morgan wouldn't have even been having if he had just
Mhm.
been a bus driver,
Mhm.
something like
Mhm.
that. So that's why I feel like it's pertinent because we can start there. Like how many women would
Mhm.
only talk to a certain caliber of brother, and I think we talked
Mhm.
about that maybe with two can play that game. Like some women I ain't checking for the blue collar
Mhm.
worker. Like if you're not
Mhm.
making high six figures,
Mhm.
or driving a certain car, or living in a certain neighborhood, or
Mhm.
dressed in a certain way, they're not even interested in you. And
Mhm.
conversely, it might be some brothers out here who are not interested in, you know, whom they would consider more homely, or whatever.
Mhm.
Like if you not, Yaki, 36 inches of
Mhm.
Yaki, or a double D, or,
Mhm.
34, 26, 34, like they not checking for you. So
Mhm.
that's something maybe that
Mhm.
is an underlying message that perhaps is showing up in all rom-coms, but
Mhm.
black rom-coms too. Is just the outward appearance and how
Mhm.
significant what you do or what you wear or how you look is versus, I feel like I'm about to be like Dr. King, like the intent of your
Mhm.
character.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, so I that came to mind as you were talking.
I identify now. I don't know your thoughts on character choice, but I identify that dynamic because I feel like it's more blatantly. So first of all, before I say that, I feel like it's in today's like podcast streets that it's more, that message is being more and more pushed that, where women who want some women, I don't want to overgeneralize, some women who want the 6 foot, high six figures, whatever, not look like whatever, look like, I guess Ildra's elbow, whatever.
Woo!
Um, conversely, men are saying, well, if you want that type of man, you need to be a certain size, you need to, present yourself a certain way, you need to have feminine energy, like all of these terms that are thrown out, right? So I think in the way the characters were developed, that was, Paula Patton or Morgan was the feminine one. Like I used to gawk at, I was very much more the Queen Latifah character. I used to gawk at girls who would wear heels to football games. I didn't understand that because I'm like, you trip down these stairs, that's it. So like that never made sense to me. But I had a cousin who was the very really into, all things what I call girly. I was a self-proclaimed tomboy. Um, but she was in all things girly, so of course she got more dates. And I was the girl that who guys were like talked they like automatically friends on, probably because of the way I presented myself. You okay? Okay.
Yeah,
So I as I get older, I no longer have that distinction like I am quote unquote better because I'm not, so girly, I'm down to earth or whatever. I find myself trying to merge those two now. But I think it just makes me wonder, you can be both, but I think society as a whole still split. Like usually the girls who are the pretty ones don't have a lot going for them. That's the way it's portrayed, right? Like the substance isn't there. Like you said, she is literally the definition of gold digger. When people be calling people gold diggers out here, that she's the gold. Like she had, like I said, she had vision boards and like, she finding where people were touring and out. Like that was her job, right? Because the payoff was she'll marry somebody who was rich, and then she could um jump off and do a fashion brand or what have you. So I related to their dynamic and I related to the mom. We haven't really got to the mom. So the mom, I think they were going to the birthday party, but they were going somewhere, and the mom had these earrings that I think her grandfather gave to her mom. And anyway, the point was whoever wore them met their husband that night. So she held them up, and I thought she was gonna offer them to Leslie, but she ended up offering them to Morgan. And I just thought that wasn't right. And I again identified with that because I felt like because I wasn't my grandmother was very much old school woman. I've never seen when she was alive, I never saw her wear pants ever. Like she was very much a lady. And we would have these like not necessarily battles, but I didn't opt to wear a dress myself until I was 18. Anytime I wore a dress before this, because my grandma made me, I much rather preferred a pair of overalls. But I can see that like happening where they pushed, not they, the mom pushed Morgan because the dad affirmed Leslie the way she was. Um, and not that she was like, she whenever she went out on dates, she didn't wear the jersey, so at least give her that credit. But the mom always kind of push the narrative of you're gonna find the husband on Morgan versus to Leslie. She kind of would be like, well, why don't you do this so that you can find your husband type language. So that was also an interesting dynamic as well.
For sure. So yes, the grandmother owned the earrings and she was wearing
Mm-hmm.
the night that she met her grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
Leslie's mom was wearing the earrings the night that she met her dad. And so
Mm-hmm.
picks up where you were saying where, if you wear these tonight, you're gonna meet your
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I too thought she was going to hand them to Leslie, but I guess it
Mm-hmm.
was like, let me give these to someone that I feel like
Mm-hmm.
more successful in acquiring
Mm-hmm.
a husband. And so,
Mm-hmm.
the mom's perhaps thought process is again, it is more about like the outward and how you're looking.
Mm-hmm.
You catch more flies with honey and
Mm-hmm.
being kind of more girly or typical girly because I don't think they have to be truly exclusive. Like I think you can be
Mm-hmm.
in overalls, but nevertheless.
Mm-hmm.
Um so yeah, I'm just, also thinking about like what kind of message that sent to Liz
Mm-hmm.
character. Like if she had been dealing with that, I'm assuming they're in their early 30s in this movie,
Mm-hmm.
late 20s, early 30s. Like
Mm-hmm.
getting that message all her life. Like you're not girly enough. You need to dress like this. You need to look like
Mm-hmm.
you ain't gonna never get him. I mean, she basically was like,
Mm-hmm.
you ain't gonna never get a man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that doing to Leslie's psyche? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, her dad, who was like, you're my princess, you're
Mm-hmm.
beautiful, like just the way you are to counteract
Mm-hmm.
what I consider rather toxic behavior the
Mm-hmm.
mom was demonstrating. So yeah, having those parental dynamics definitely
Mm-hmm.
um could play a part in not only, Leslie's character, but how some of us may have
Mm-hmm.
ultimately dated or married. Like what were our parents saying? What was our
Mm-hmm.
grandmama saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
navigating us in a way that may or may not have been ideal. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I ain't like Pam Grill's character. To be
Yeah.
honest with you.
So, picking back up Morgan and Scott, about to call him Common. Morgan and Scott, they eventually get engaged. And I think it was a playoffs game, but in a game, he injures himself. And Morgan tried to stay. How long she stayed after the injury, but she realized she couldn't do it. So
He was like,
she she left him a Dear John letter, put it by his bed next
after
to
she
his.
had been out shopping, spending up all that man.
Yes. Oh, yes. He would be trying to call her and like why they had asked Leslie Morgan, I think specifically asked Leslie as a favor to her because Leslie was a really talented physical therapist. She was very smart. That didn't come out till later. But as a favor to Morgan, Leslie was helping Scott rehab his knee. So, they in their PT training, he calling her, she not answering the phone because she getting more and more distant. And then finally she leave a Dear John letter next to his mess
Eddie Boots. Patty.
on his nightstand. And so that should have been it. Like that's gonna come back around in the movie. But we don't need no more chances for you to abandon me. So you telling me when stuff get tough is you out. So Scott falls into a little bit of a depression. He really kind of like stopped. He kind of gave up, stayed in his room. Scott's mama attacks Leslie because she thought Leslie was just there for his money, like Morgan was, because Morgan bought Leslie in. Leslie goes to confront Morgan. She like, I can't do this. I ain't built to be nobody caretaker. I just, want to live this happily ever after life, and that ain't how it works. And so Leslie kind of the typical like, okay, I'm gonna, dig my heels in, get you back in shape, not take your excuses. So she really becomes more of his friend, doing this little montage where they're hanging out, and she's helping get his leg together. And so they get closer. They find out that again, Common Scott is deeper than just your average basketball player. He like jazz. He like all of these things that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you think of basketball players. She takes him to his old neighborhood. The kids there like, we need to see you back on the court, so that kind of gives him a renewed want to get back up on the good foot. And so I don't know if he had played a game. I think he had played a game, so his injury gets rehab. He plays a game. Let me back up. Because they were getting so close, Leslie gets sick and Scott bring her soup, and then they fall asleep on the couch together and all of this stuff. So they're getting really, really close. And I don't remember if they like ended up in bed together, then he played a game, then Morgan came back, or I feel like that was the sequence of events because his his they getting close, his leg is rehab, he plays the game, and then Morgan like, oh hey, she spin the block. Oh, you feel better? She talked about how she was in therapy, how she had these abandonment issues, all of this stuff. So like literally the night before, Leslie and Scott end up in bed together. Then the next morning, Morgan come knocking on the door. Now, unless I missed something, I don't remember him saying, okay, Morgan, come in. I think Leslie sees the interaction and some kind of way feel like she can't compete with Morgan. So something was said about that, okay, so help me out.
No, Scott wasn't there when Morgan got there.
I thought Scott was there.
Leslie opened the door. Morgan came in. While
Uh-huh.
Leslie and Morgan were talking,
Okay.
Scott came back.
Okay.
That's when Morgan started,
Mm-hmm.
in her little diatribe or whatever. But before
Mm-hmm.
we go there, I want to run it all the
Mm-hmm.
way back. Because I think we can talk about some real important things as we are
Mm-hmm.
through the oops. Oh, I just lost all the little comments.
I don't
Because
see it.
Minister
Let's see
Alicia
one.
asked a question, but
I can't see nothing. Let me see if I can see it. I'm refreshing my page.
okay. So when you mentioned
Oh, a
how
whole bunch of people talking.
Leslie and hey Minister Lisa, how not Leslie, I'm sorry, how Morgan left the note on the counter.
Uh-huh.
And I think one thing I mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
we mentioned how she really wanted
Mm-hmm.
a high value man. How she,
Mm-hmm.
and she wanted a high value man, but she never said she wanted to love him.
Mm-hmm.
She just really wanted to have status, fame,
Mhm.
prestige,
Mhm.
sit with a basketball wives set,
Mhm.
have the, fragrance line, the clothing
Mhm.
line, the cooking line. Because she may have even said it and alluded to the fact, I'll grow to love him. Like,
Mhm.
she
Mhm.
hanging out with him, he jet setting her, doing all this,
Mhm.
but she never was like, I love him. I'm in love with
Mhm.
him. I want to
Mhm.
spend the rest of my life with him. I can't
Mhm.
live without him, versus Leslie, not necessarily for Scott, but she was like, I want to be with somebody who want to be with me, somebody who can't
Mhm.
live without me. Now I feel some kind of way
Mhm.
about that, um, but I think that was part of the reason why it was so easy for Morgan to dip,
Mhm.
because she wasn't vested to begin with.
Mhm.
Like, she
Mhm.
just wanted the status. And I think,
Mhm.
again, as we relate this to our personal love lives, black
Mhm.
love we've seen around the world, is how often does that happen, where
Mhm.
it's more transactional. It's not
Mhm.
about love, it's not about
Mhm.
emotion, it's about,
Mhm.
I need a green card, or,
Mhm.
I want to be able to say I'm this, that, and the third, and you
Mhm.
call up on what this person can
Mhm.
give you or do for you, versus a genuine relationship or a
Mhm.
genuine partnership. And so,
Mhm.
we know it's a movie, but I
Mhm.
also get that that's why maybe some people in real relationships can dip out when the going
Mhm.
gets tough, because they weren't
Mhm.
in it for pure intentions to start with.
Mhm.
So I wanted to mention that before we got
Mhm.
to the
Mhm.
circling of the block, that
Mhm.
part of the reason why she then was able to come back was because
Mhm.
now her gravy
Mhm.
train is potentially
Mhm.
back on track.
Mhm.
And let me run up in here. So I just wanted to say that real quick. And hey guys, how are
And
you?
that's really good. And I think again to go back to the rhetoric, right? Like listening to, I no longer listen to them because they were stressing me out. But listen to some of these podcasts, you did never hear it was very transactional, right? You never heard, I want to love somebody because I want them to, be Christ like, be whatever, whatever. It was always, and I know now it's propaganda because that's what get ratings, right? Like I'm pretty sure it was said, they just chose not to put it out there. But it was always this transactional, like, oh, if I take you on a date, then the expectation is I get you give me some, or you know what I'm saying, or it's very much the
Mhm.
message in the dating world today. It's very much transactional, and I think this was something that, not saying it wasn't going on like like what you just described, but now it's out there more mainstream. Everybody's talking about it. Like, you know, we yeah, like you said, no one ever goes on the show and say, I want a woman that would love my kids or love me or blah blah blah. It's, I want a girl that look like this. I want a girl that hold me down, whatever that means. Describe what that means. I want a woman that, that is submissive, all of these things, but it never talks about love. It never talks about how you also got to submit to somebody. Like you want to lead somebody, but who are you being like? You're right. I think that's a very good point to bring out because you're right. It was very much transactional um for Morgan. I want to say Leslie for Morgan.
For sure. And then Minister Alicia had asked about what about Leslie and her desire to want
Mm-hmm.
to be wanted. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's major. Like, I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
us feel that and think that. So, conversely from Morgan, who was like, yeah, I want you to want me, but that's
Mm-hmm.
only in regards to what I can then get from that, versus Leslie,
Mm-hmm.
who was like, I'm a ride or die. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
have your back no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
and I want someone who recognizes that.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point that I kind of brushed off earlier, when she was like,
Mm-hmm.
I want someone who can't live without
Mhm.
me. Now, just me living life to the point that I'm at now, I don't want nobody who feel that way, because that's a whole
Mhm.
level of, like, again,
Mhm.
toxic responsibility.
Mhm.
But for the sake of the movie, like,
Mhm.
we would want to be most people would want to be
Mhm.
in a relationship where it is reciprocity, right? It's
Right. I want somebody, like you said, I think the healthy is one is I want somebody who want me, not I want somebody, because I used to say that too. I'm like, never mind, that's too
right,
much. Because there's gonna be a time where you're gonna get on my nerves and I need to go into another room or like go drive down the street and I don't need you breathing down my neck.
right.
And I also think something that Leslie fell into that I think is very paramount, it's because she's the girl who will, roll her sleeves up. And I know she didn't go into this interaction between her and Scott like, she never checked her feelings when there was never a conversation, there was never exposure of her feelings for Scott. I feel like those feelings for Scott was the one that kind of like ended her up in that position anyway. Like I feel like they never should have went there. Like she should have just did her job and kept it professional. Like she moved into his house and everything. I feel like because her feelings were unchecked, that was a motivation. Because sometimes the trap is I'm going to do all of this for you again, another form of transaction, so you will accept me because you didn't pick me the first time. You picked Morgan. So now that Morgan out the picture, I'm gonna do what I need. And I know this wasn't like visibly said, but I think a lot of women in real life fall into this trap. Like I'm gonna show you like the when Mr. Lisa said the want to be needed or the want to be wanted, which is not always interchangeable. But Scott depended on her. Like he started to like, she was good at what she did and he started depending on her not just for rehabbing his knee, but she became his sounding board, she became his confidant, they became close. And I really think had she checked her feelings about him, she probably could have kept it professional, like, or even, maybe not even taking the job because it would have been a conflict of interest. But I think being honest with ourselves as like, what's our why? And can we do stuff like that? Can we have those boundaries? Can we just do our job, or should it be like, you know what, this is a conflict of interest, or I can't do it at this time. You don't have to get no reason. But I think because of that is a way that we end up doing these acts of service when it's really like, I just want you to want me. I just want you to depend on me. Because again, I identify, because when Scott did get healed, and if he wasn't interested in her, then it's like she's placed all her identity, or some of her identity, in him leaning on her. So then when the job is done, then what? And I just think there's something to like, we have to be honest with ourselves when, you know, we like someone, because our why can be hidden behind, oh, I'm just a helpful person, versus no, I like him and I hope he'll take notice of me. I know that wasn't her thing, but I think there's some things that we fall into.
Yeah. And to your point, we were talking about this before we actually came on live,
Mm-hmm.
because I had said one of the dynamics
Mm-hmm.
from, just street code is you don't date somebody your family or friend undated.
Mm-hmm.
So was, Leslie wrong for kicking it
Mm-hmm.
with Scott after
Mm-hmm.
he had been engaged to Morgan? And we were talking about the fact that um Leslie actually liked Scott first. So one, she was a avid basketball fan, and so
Mm-hmm.
she knew all
Saying,
about him, knew his high school stats, like, all of
mm-hmm.
this. And so what would have happened if she had been honest at the beginning when Morgan asked her, "Do you like him?" And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh no, I don't do ball players.
Mhm.
It's not like that."
Mhm.
So, how could the storyline have been different if she had
Mhm.
candid and forthcoming about, well, I don't know if
Mhm.
I like him, but I'm interested in getting to know him, and
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
setting that boundary with Morgan
Morgan.
to
Mhm.
start with. So when they went to the birthday party, um, it may I would like to think that Morgan wouldn't have done what she
Mhm.
did if she knew that Leslie liked him. But since Leslie was like, nah, that ain't my, that's, I'm not vibing, or I'm not feeling him
Mhm.
like that, Then when Morgan swoops in her
Mhm.
very manipulative way,
Mhm.
Leslie can't really be mad because
Mhm.
he was open, you know what I'm saying? It was open, it was whatever. I can't think of the phrase right now, but it
Mhm.
was like open season because Leslie had not been honest. And so then
Mhm.
what you said, now she ends up getting this professional responsibility
Mhm.
to him, and it was, a full-time live-in position, which I'm not in I'm not in athletics. I don't know if that's how these things actually work.
No.
But yeah, she very much, I mean, maybe
Mhm.
I, rich people run different. I ain't there
Oh,
yet.
that's
I
true.
don't
Mm.
know. But
I
like
feel
you
like
said,
that's unethical, but I don't think so.
well, I don't think the living with is
Yeah,
unethical.
yeah,
I
but
think
her, yeah.
in
Mhm.
having a relationship for some
Mhm.
from a therapist perspective, it would be unethical.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
but it's kind of like, what you were saying, because she already had these feelings that she had not unpacked and maybe not
Mhm.
be honest with herself about, it put
Mhm.
a situation where he's better, he plays the game, they win.
Mhm.
Like, let me take you out to dinner. He fixes
Mhm.
her car. He does all of these really nice, romantic, sweet things that are like, this is the kind of stuff people do when they like you. And
Mhm.
so, you like me? And now, like you said, we're in bed together, and I'm like, bet. And then
Mhm. That's it.
Morgan shows up to to your earlier point. Then Morgan pops in like,
I've been working on myself, and I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking straight. Your injury trauma,
right. And for those of you all who have seen the movie, like, feel free. Again, I know my Facebook is being really, really glitchy and weird, and I
Mhm.
apologize for that. But if y'all are watching and y'all have thoughts, feel free to comment. Um, what you learned about
Mhm.
Black love from this movie. What are some
Mhm.
things that you took with regards to these characters, what they did that was trash,
Mhm.
that never should be done, but we tried it, or things that they did that you were like, you watched the movie and was like, that's crazy. I'm never gonna do that. Like, we would love to hear
Mhm.
your thoughts about Leslie, Scott, and
Mhm.
Morgan and the love triangle that is.
Mhm. Yes. So, I love getting to the part where I think this is garbage. Like, yeah, Leslie shouldn't have never went there because he chose Morgan first, period. Off the like, so that would have automatically should have been automatically, you ain't even choose me first. You chose not to pursue me. This girl come make up this like we had a small tiny connection. Like, I like basketball. I've been following your career. I like jazz. I peeked out some random CD in your car, and all of these things. This girl, light skinned girl, come talking about something. She volunteered at the homeless shelter. Don't give you her number, and all of a sudden you floating behind her. Like, that's it. And I
Oh,
think it also, huh?
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
let me just say this real quick as we talk about like things we learn and things we,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, just okay. So she like, no, I don't date Morgan. I don't date ball
Mhm.
players. I'm not gonna give you my number, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
Now in 2024, he stalked her because he done found
Mhm.
out where she lived,
Mhm.
popped up at her house unannounced,
Mhm.
unsolicited. I'm like, that's to me a red flag.
But she wanted that to happen though.
No, she did. But I'm saying, like, if you watch this through the eyes of like real life,
Mhm.
that's scary and creepy and
Mhm.
stalkerish, and I'm waving red flags because I don't be coming to
Mhm.
my house unannounced. But
Mhm.
in the movie, it's cool and sexy, and he wanted her, he found her, and you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? It's reading like
Mhm.
that's what we want. Now in the
Mhm.
real world, is could potentially be two ends of the spectrum. On the one hand,
Mhm.
it could be like me, like, nah, that's crazy.
Mhm.
Or it could be like, that's what I'm expecting this dude to do. And if he's
Mhm.
not doing that, then he don't like me. If he not doing
Mhm.
that, he not the one for me. Cause
Mhm.
Cause he not trying to
Because he
work for
ain't
the
playing Inspector
FBI
Gadget
and
looking for
pick
you.
out your telephone number, girl, give me the number.
Or at least your Instagram page.
Who got time to be playing all these reindeer games? What's wrong?
That's what I was just about to ask. So is that too much of an expectation to be like, I ain't gonna give you my number, but it's gonna cause the man to change? Like, I feel like you have already, by talking to him, you have all or engaging in conversation. You have already said, "Hey, I'm available. I want you to, or if I give you my number or whatever." But yeah, like this whole comfort. You right in 2024. That's no, don't please don't do that in 2000. But don't show up at my door looking for me because I'm like, you know what?
A restraining order on you? No, don't.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Miss
Mr.
Alicia
Alicia
said
said,
that
oh, go ahead.
more. Yeah, go ahead. Because I was refreshing this page.
You got it.
No, go ahead. I refreshed my page.
Okay, so Minister Alicia said this number one. Minister Alicia said this one of her favorite movies. She done watched it 11 times. But yes, Leslie placed Morgan in Scott's hands
Twice.
because she wasn't being honest. And yes, Morgan was definitely fronting. Like her whole existence was fake. One of the things she said, I can't forget what Leslie said. Leslie said something about, I don't know, being real or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Morgan was like, you don't show the real you until 5 years into marriage. Like she was prepared to not be, maybe she
Mm-hmm.
didn't even know who her real self was, but she was prepared
Mm-hmm.
to not be that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She was well established in this,
Mm-hmm.
high post, high value
Mm-hmm.
marriage.
Like
And
this was her job. This was her
yes,
occupation. It ain't the
this
first
was
time
her,
she did this.
this was her job for sure. This was her job. But Scott's mom peeped that.
Oh
Scott's
yeah.
mom, I love Felicia like I know her. The mom peeped it like, don't you think this a bit soon? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but versus she
Mm-hmm.
like Leslie, down to earth, practical, know how to play
Mm-hmm.
biz wiz or whatever.
Mhm,
So she
mhm,
was here for it. Um,
mhm,
so what do you think, Dr. A and people watching, what do you think about this concept of being a best friend? So it reads like, and it's many movies we can watch. We talking about Brown Sugar
mhm.
next month.
And loving basketball. So,
Um, and so, it these movies present like being the best friend or starting off as friends is bad,
mhm,
but I feel like that's kind of dope. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you have this foundation that has nothing to do with
mhm,
romantic inclinations,
mhm,
have nothing to do with sex. Like we just
mhm,
cool, we just vibe, we
mhm,
just have a good time
mhm,
together, and you know me and I know you, and
mhm,
like why do we think these movies make it seem like that's bad? And then we translate that into the real world and we meet
mhm,
somebody and we could see them as a friend, but like, yeah, I couldn't see them romantic. But we don't
mhm,
know that because we haven't given it time to kind of nurture.
mhm. I think one thing we talked about, probably in a singles group, maybe a Marco Polo, is about like these steps, right? Like we meet somebody and probably automatically go to like step V, right? Like we don't never stay on step A. I think in my head, if I was to be honest with myself, a perfect relationship for me would be a relationship that we started off as friends. There was no expectation of a relationship and it just organically grew because we fell in love with each other after getting to know each other, right? And so I think that in society, and I think as a single person, like I don't want to necessarily say, dating, but just now my purview is like just get to know someone. Like you be ready to like I said, in my head, I'm already thinking about how they propose. Like if I like somebody, how they propose, where we going on honeymoon with, all of these things. And like, I don't even know if I like you yet. Like, like every man I meet should not be in my head as like, this is husband potential. Let me just get to know you as a person, as a friend. So I actually think it's good because with your best friend, and in my experience when growing up in high school, I had guys that they told me stuff they wouldn't even tell like their girlfriends, right? Like, so I think when a man and a woman is best friend, a man that could be comfortable with you to tell you things that, if you establish that foundation first, I think the transition into, because you should want to marry your best friend, right? You should want to have to know, like, as I say, sometimes the dark side of friendship, like how does this person handle these different things when they're angry, when grief happens. It's great that y'all can laugh and, hang out and be in each other's company all the time. But I feel like you should want to marry your best friend. I feel like your husband should become one of your, or partners, if you don't want to get married, should be your best friend. Because if I'm gonna live with somebody, I need to halfway like him a little bit.
Right, right. Serena
So
said, I agree. Friendship before relationship. If I can't be your friend, then I can't be with you. So yeah, I think that's one of those, steps
mhm.
sometimes we skip over, in particular with this, and don't nobody come for me.
Mhm.
With these like dating to mate, or
Mhm.
I'm
Date to
if,
mate.
if we not if I don't see him as husband potential, I can't. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I feel like I have learned over the years there is
Mhm.
value in having guy friends who
Mhm.
are strictly platonic, because
Mhm.
most women think alike.
Mhm.
If you only talking to women, you
Mhm.
probably gonna confirm the stuff you saying, which might not even be
Mhm.
accurate. So I think it's
Mhm.
good to have guy friends.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
also, I think it gives you that space, as you were saying, Dr. A, to just organically get to know this person. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, before we get all starry eyed
Mhm.
and like you said, we picking out wedding colors and trying to find like, do I like the way you eat? Do you snore? Like, I can't. I'm thinking about marrying you, and I don't even know.
Can you clap on the one and the two? Like,
You know what I'm saying? Do we like similar things? Are we
are
compatible?
we even compatible? Like, do we like the same stuff? Can we hang out and do the same stuff?
So I think that's, again, most rom-coms
Mhm.
give this impression like you meet somebody and by day
Mhm.
and we this and we that.
Mhm.
You slurp your drink, right? Like, okay, funny story. I went out with this guy one time. This is long
Mhm.
time ago. And we went out to this restaurant, and I think he got a steak and he had cut his steak. Y'all, he licked the knife. I was horrified. I said, what in the country, Bama, is happening? And I remember thinking, I will never go out with you again. He actually went to the Olympics. He was a boxer. He went to the Olympics, he's boxing, he's married, not all this stuff. But for me in my house, what we not
Listen,
is being a
I
public restaurant, licking knives.
on the plate.
That's
Like I've seen that before.
that's what we're not gonna do. So them the things I need to see
Mhm.
before I make strong, lifelong decisions.
Mhm. Can you have a conversation with people outside of me? Like some people, like you, I had to pay attention to that. I remember this one time. Again, I very toxic. I used to want to be the center of my dudes. Like, no, I need you. If you don't have friends, that's a red flag to me. If you ain't close with all of your family members, that's like don't nobody like you. That's a red flag to me. Because I'm gonna need you to have a life outside of me. But I think, and to your point, for maybe unconsciously, I think looking at these movies, I think unconsciously that's what we do, right? We automatically try to present ourselves, as you say, date to make this funny. We're dating for marriage, or we don't we skip the friend step. It's like it's like I don't want to say dogs and heat, but anytime you introduce a man into a situation where there has not been a man at all, we automatically, well, me, I ain't gonna speak for everybody. I used to automatically like, oh, he's possible husband material, and the way that I've had to like I still deal with it, but the way that I've had to like just get to know this person, you don't know if his breath stink or not. Like you don't know, and it's the same thing that I complain when guys be trying to get with me physically. I'm like, you don't even know what is my middle name. You don't even know if I'm an ex murderer or not. Like you should be more cautious with your life than trying to get me by ourselves. I might be really crazy. Why are you this reckless with your life?
Right. Right.
So I think it is unconsciously something that I have picked up is to like let me present myself in a way of I'm an intentional dating does not mean, or if marriage is your goal, that does not mean that every man that you go on an outing with is husband material. Like, can we just hang out? And those are the ones that I actually prefer. I prefer, like, I don't know anything about football, but I can go somewhere. I like a good time to me is going somewhere with a guy that's into a football game and me and him having conversation while the game is on. Like, that's fun to me. So, yeah, I think we do ourselves a disservice when we do that. I think it goes back again to my upbringing. I didn't know how to interact with like our Sunday school used to be segregated. It was when we got to be teenagers, like I guess they thought we would just jump all over each other. So they would have a 13 to 17-year-old girl class. They would have a 13 to 17-year-old boy class. We never even like learn how to engage and interact with each other in Sunday school. So, or purity class. So, understand like my only like reference of knowledge is okay, if a guy sees me and we cool with being friends, that's how I saw myself. So now after I get married, it's like hyper. Okay, now everybody I want to be my no, kind of go back and just get to know them because you don't even know. Like there are steps to before y'all even decide if y'all exclusively dating. That should happen because again, like you said, you don't even know if you like this person. So why would you date them?
Yeah. So I
So.
definitely think, part of the reason, and if you're just popping on, you might have missed when Dr. A said this initially, is part of the reason why this series was started was many of us didn't learn about dating. We didn't learn about male female interactions and relationships, or what we did learn from our, family and friends maybe had been skewed. And so we were watching these movies as a template for how relationships were to happen, then
Mhm.
again, it could be skewed in a different direction. So I think one of the things, um, as I rewatched this movie, 14 years later, with slight annoyance, as I posted the other day. But one of the things I did learn is be honest, right? So
Mhm.
if I am channeling Leslie, be honest with the person that at bare minimum I'm interested in getting to know you. I ain't gonna say I like you. I ain't gonna necessarily say I want to date you. I'm not necessarily saying we got to get married. But at
Mhm.
bare minimum, I'm interested in getting to know you more.
Mhm.
And if I'm a, Scott type person, if I'm channeling him, it is what's my why? Like what
Mhm.
was it that made you pick Morgan over Leslie
Mhm.
initially? Because you
Mhm.
too were vibing with Leslie's character at the gas
Mhm.
station. So much so that you invited a stranger to your home for your birthday party. So we're vibing, and all of a sudden this person walks by, and you just,
Mhm.
shut me down. And let me just say this too, right, real fast.
Mhm.
For those of us who have a Morgan in our lives, I'm gonna need us to set some boundaries.
Mhm.
Because first of all, Leslie, I'm not leaving the party.
Mhm.
I was invited to the party. I'm having fun at the party. You want to
Mm-hmm.
go volunteer at your fake shelter job? Bye. Taxis are running. What I'm not gonna do is leave
Mm-hmm.
here. You know what I'm saying? And so just having those boundaries
Mm-hmm. That's
and
true. Because she probably could have
advocate.
stayed there and hooked up with Scott had she stayed.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So advocate for yourself, know your worth, know your value. And it
Mm-hmm.
ain't Scott, maybe it was one of the other NBA players, but like,
Mm-hmm.
don't let this person's decisions
Mm-hmm.
dictate how you move. Like that, nah, we too old for that. Like we too grown for that. We too mature for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I was channeling Morgan's character, I would be like, please fast and pray, get a life. And like again, really figure out what's your why. Like there has to
Mm-hmm.
be more to you than just being someone's wife. Woo!
Mm-hmm.
For us, ladies,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be more to us than just being somebody's wife. Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we are so much. We have our
Mm-hmm.
capacity is so much more than
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
that could be a sprinkle on the Sunday of our lives. You know what I'm saying? But that can't be all three scoops of the ice cream and the bananas and the chocolate and
Mm-hmm.
that's
That
a
can't be the only thing that you
orange.
got going for yourself.
That's a ooh come girl. Listen, nuggets are being dropped if you're listened. If you're listening, marriage does not have to be the entree. It can be the garnish.
Mm-mm. You said a garnish.
It can be the garnish. It's just an added piece to the
Mm-hmm.
plate of
Mm-hmm.
food, but it does not
Your
have
life is not over.
the potato and the broccoli.
Hmm.
The
I
little
remember
parsley.
somebody had asked, like, what's your plan B if you don't get married? And sarcastically, the woman was like, I guess I'll die. Like, because why I gotta be a plan B? Like, there are other things, like you said, to echo you, there are other things about me that, again, this rhetoric that's being pushed out there, if you're unmarried, there's obviously something wrong with it. No, how about I just get my business together?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's not like you said. I'm no longer treating that as if that's the goal. And I think a lot of this was like the Black Disney movies for us. Like, the Disney princesses when we was young. Like, they have just every age group given us this fantasy to look at.
Mm.
And like, no, like that is not the goal. Like that, like you said, that's the sprinkle. Like, yes, he who finds a wife finds a good thing, but it don't say nowhere if you unmarried, something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
Nowhere does it say
It
that.
does not. It does.
So yeah.
Tarina is playing on Hulu. So
Oh yeah. Yeah,
check it
it's on
out.
Hulu.
Let us know what you think. Dr. A, do you have anything that we missed with regards to any of the characters, any of the themes, any of um just anything that we missed?
And get you like yes, I know we have friends that like we said, we have friends that are that think like us, but get you some friends that won't stab you in the back. Like I know to Morgan's point, Leslie didn't make it known, but listen, when you got somebody that's willing to, but Leslie was trying to be like, don't walk out on this man and and get you some better friends. Like that's another theme through these movies. Like, be careful who your friends are, who you surround yourself with.
That is
So
so
both of them technically was garbage. Morgan was garbage for leaving. Leslie was garbage for even dating, because he picked Morgan first. So it ain't nothing. We ain't got nothing to talk about. Let me do my job. Let me go home.
right.
So
Right. Exactly.
yeah. So no, this was good. This really. I'm glad we freestyled. We had some really good stuff that came out of this
Yeah.
movie. So
Yes,
I'm
Tarina. So
excited.
mark your calendar for the third Tuesday of
Mm-hmm.
the month at 6:30 is when we are doing the scripted love series for now. To the Lord says otherwise until we run out of black rom-coms. Um So yeah,
Mhm.
the third, and that's for anyone who's watching the third Tuesday of the month at 6:30 Central, 7:30
Mhm.
Eastern. We are popping on. And we have some other things in the works. We not gonna tell you
Mhm.
just yet. We're gonna keep you in suspense. Um, but there are some other things in the work where we could
Mhm.
definitely let you all know that next month we are talking about brown sugar. So if
Mhm.
in a minute since you watched that, go check that out. Go,
Mhm.
no, if you don't remember, go watch it.
Mhm.
That's with what's her name, Sanaa Lathan and
Mhm.
Pay Diggs.
Babies. Mhm.
Forget the Nicole
Nicole Ari Parker.
Ari Parker. So yeah, so
Mhm.
another classic black rom com, and I think we actually might have a guest on that one too, but
Mhm.
we'll keep you posted about
We'll
that.
keep you posted. Yep.
Um,
Mhm.
So yeah, so just as a quick reminder, some things I shared at the beginning. If you are interested in coming to House of Esther, I extended the deadline for registration to this Saturday, the 23rd. So we have a king bed available for a 150 deposit or one of the two queen beds that are available for 100. If you are registered, um, and we have some people on the lives who are
Mhm.
registered, and you know
Mhm.
this gonna be fire, tell
I'm
somebody.
registered.
Dr. A is registered. Tell somebody, invite a friend, let them know, like, hey, you want to be at this. It is an investment in you. It's an investment in your healing. It's an investment in your deliverance. It's an investment in your
Mhm.
breakthrough.
Mhm.
Minister Alicia, she was on this live earlier. She is my co-facilitator. And if you've
Mhm.
seen any of her stuff, you know she is dynamic and phenomenal. So you get not one but two women of God who are also licensed clinicians. So we freestyling in the sense we moving in the spirit, but like we know what we talking about. We ain't new to this. We true to this, as they say. Do they even say that? I'm so old. Anyway, so that's one thing. The other thing is the Lioness outing, where we're going to Goodwill on Lindbergh on December 7th from 2 to 4. We're doing our Valentine's night get together at the Battle Show Game Rooms in Chesterfield on February the 14th. Those tickets are $42, and all the ladies are welcome. I assume it's gonna be all the single ladies, but again, if you're married and your spouse is, I don't know, in the military and not gonna be around, I don't know. You're welcome to come. You can register for House of Esther, and you can purchase your ticket for the game show at drshalay.com/events-1. And
Mhm.
then lastly, save the date for April 5th for the fifth annual Roar Like a Lioness um women's conference. And I wasn't gonna say this, but I feel like I need to say this real quick. If you need a photographer, if you got graduation pictures, you need new headshots, you branding, I'm gonna need y'all to hit up Dr. A. She don't be saying it enough. But all my photos and my current flyers and all of that, she took them pictures, y'all. They good, right? They fire, right? Like I look real cute. I mean, I am cute, and she just accentuated the cuteness. So if you need your, well, she not gonna say family portrait, but I'm gonna say family portrait. It's
Yes,
holiday
yes. I
season.
just had to come. Yeah.
Y'all need some family portraits. You need some holiday pictures. You need some cards. Listen, hit up your girl. She ain't gonna toot her own horn, so I'ma toot it for her real fast. Hit her
Thank you.
up, get your pictures done. You won't regret it. Listen, even Tarina said fire, I'm telling you. So just wanted to make that little plug real quick.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and pop off. Thank you so much for hanging out with us despite the glitchiness
Mhm.
of my internet connection. I don't know why it's tripping, but nevertheless, we made it through. So if you did not watch the whole thing, please catch the replay either on
Mhm.
Facebook or I will upload it to my YouTube channel so you can watch it there and watch it there. And then be sure to mark your calendar for the third Tuesday in December. I don't know what that date is right offhand, but
I
actually
will.
I can
I
tell
will
you.
look it up. Yep.
It's the 7th.
Third Tuesday. Yep. 17th.
The 17th. So mark, go ahead and mark your calendar. December 17th, 6:30.
Mhm. Mhm.
sugar.
You're live.
All right. So we love you guys. We appreciate you for hanging out. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for doing all of the things. And we will see you next time.
Bye, everybody. Thank
Love
you.
you guys. Be blessed, Dr. S.